Hi, if you have ever picked up a camera, pencil, or a guitar, there's a chance you might be creative. A chance that you have made something with your hands or tried something out another creative person has made before you. But what does being creative actually mean? Can you be born with a creative mind, or do you have to develop one? My name is Jeannique, and today I'm going to talk all about creativity. Its definition, what determines a creative mind, what does your DNA have to do with anything, and isn't everyone a little bit creative? Even just on the inside? All that and more today on this Creative Talk. Due to Richard Florida, creativity is essential to the way we live and work today, and involves distinct habits of mind and patterns of behavior that must be cultivated on both an individual basis and in the surrounding society. It shapes our technologies, workspaces, society, and personal lives in a way that's ever-changing. While that has always been the case, it feels like the amount of creative practices and people has risen dramatically, and the world needs your creative ideas.
What, mine? No, I'm not creative, Bill. No. Oh, stop it. The only reason people don't think they're creative is because they don't understand what creativity really is. They think it's the lightning bolt that only strikes the gifted few. Here's the secret. We are all the gifted few.
The man who just screamed at you is Bill Stainton. In his TED Talk on how to be a more creative person, the motivational speaker explains that creativity is nothing more than connecting two dots. Dots can be anything from ideas to experiences, and everyone is capable of something. Lisa Mullis agrees and adds that for her, traveling helps. Not a great point in the times we're living in right now, but once we're allowed to step outside of our everyday world again and see things and meet people from different places, creativity will be flowing like never before. For her, creativity is a skill that can be developed and mastered. Though, is that true? In the next part, I will be talking about how big of a role our DNA plays in how creative we are, and interview an outsider to get his raw first answers without being prepared to think about it fully. But before moving on, here's some advice from Stainton regarding getting out of your comfort zone to find new creative zones. The part about speaking to new people should only be applied after the COVID-19 pandemic or after having made sure that both parties are vaccinated or tested negative or by socially distancing. Please be careful.
You're just one piece. You need the others to complete the picture. And you can start today. You can. Look, have a conversation with someone you don't know. Go to lunch with someone different from you. Take a class. Learn a language. Become a street mime. The power to connect dots creatively is the power to change the world.
Researching this topic led me to two great articles by David Cox and Scott Shane. They both agree that while everyone can learn to be creative to some degree, others may have an advantage that is actually inherited. Cox is mostly interested in what our brains bring to the table. Every brain is divided into two halves or hemispheres that are joined by a bundle of fibers called the corpus callosum. Excuse my Latin, I had it for 6 years in school, but as you can tell, that didn't do much for me. Writers, artists, and musicians were found to have a smaller corpus callosum, which may augment their creativity by allowing each side of the brain to develop its own specialization. This apparently benefits the training of coming up with ideas, which is obviously critical for creativity. Carey of the National Institute of Psychiatry and Addictions in Budapest adds, how brain areas talk to each other is critical when it comes to originality, fluency, and flexibility. In highly creative individuals, this connectivity is thought to be especially widespread in the brain and comes down to your personal genes that play a role in the development of pathways between different areas. So, I can't draw because my parents didn't give me the right genes? Rude. Another part of inheriting creativity is actually mental illness. Individuals with bipolar disorder often end up in professions where creativity was crucial. In bipolar mania, you have an excessive fast and divergent thinking, increased self-esteem, and never-ending energy and motivation, often to create. Cox actually mentions the creativity genes that famous people like Churchill, Beethoven, and Hemingway had, who have all shown bipolar-like patterns. Traumas, whether that be psychological or physical, also affect the expression of genes that have an impact on brain structure, in the same large-scale networks that participate in creativity. Moving on to Shane's paper, he outlines that our genes affect the importance we place on having a creative work environment. For some, it is crucial to be able to put their creative mindset to use every day and pay the bills with that. While everyone is actually a big creative no matter what, which we'll get to later, others don't need creativity at their workplace, but are content with having a creative hobby on the side instead of getting paid for something. Your genes also influence your creativity through the effect on your personality. For example, openness to experience. People high in this trait have been found to be more creative than other people, particularly in science and art, because they are open to trying something new and potentially failing at first. Hopefully everyone listening knows that failing is important. Failing will get you to the next step. Remember that. Next. Perfectionistic people tend to be less creative than others, especially artistically. Experts believe that highly conscientiousness people tend to be very organized and structured, which makes thinking outside the box more difficult for them. But don't worry if these theories describe you when you actually consider yourself to be creative. I'll repeat the word, they are theories. No version of a gene guarantees that you will be creative or innovative. Your odds of being creative are just greater if you have a favorable genetic predisposition. But learning to be creative is an act available to everyone, no matter how their DNA is shaped or if they have or don't have a specific gene. In this last part, before closing off, I will be talking to my younger brother. While I'm studying to go into media and television, he is studying computer science, which obviously requires a completely different kind of creativity. While very different, we do come from the same parents, therefore similar DNA, right? Okay, so you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Hi, I'm Ramon, 18 years old from Germany.
The only thing you know about this interview is that we're going to talk about creativity, right?
Yeah,
So, how would you describe creativity?
well, it's a process of coming up with ideas and forming that into a project or item. With what I'm doing, it's about finding the right combinations to make new programs work. A fun process.
Do you think we learn creativity or were you born with it?
I think we may have been born with an interest for it. No one draws a perfect car in kindergarten, but when you're interested in drawing one every year, it might be perfect when you're 18.
Can you draw?
I haven't in a long time. I don't know. I'm definitely interested in other things right now.
So, in my research, I found out that creativity might be developed early in the brain and specific genes. Meaning, as siblings, since we share about 50% of our DNA, do you think those entail the so called creative genes?
I mean, could be. It's also education though. We were brought up with music and drawing and playing outside, which back then didn't mean going outside to play on your phones. We were actually playing. If we had the creative genes already, they definitely developed in the right direction because of that.
Thank you, Ramon. Absolutely right. Even if someone has creativity flowing through their DNA, if they don't use it, no one will ever know. It has to be developed in order to be used and appreciated. And like Mullis said, creativity is so much more than painting and writing or singing. Creativity is how you approach a new situation, how you look at life and respond, believing all things are possible. We need to be open to explore the world through a creative lens that we all have, but not everybody knows about. After all that, let's take a breather. Breathe in and breathe out. Because creativity is also knowing how to respond to the most random, specific situations. If you couldn't guess yet, in my opinion, everyone is creative. There are plenty of different fields in which you could prove that to others in the workspace or just to yourself in the comfort of your own home. Whether it's a job or a hobby, every kind of creativity counts and should be appreciated. And while it is scientifically proven that these so-called creative genes exist, it is also still a theory if they actually make us creative, or if they help us figure out creativity, or if they start working as soon as your surroundings teach you what your creative mind is. Either way, while scientists are continuing their search for an answer, we should all appreciate creativity for what it is, especially in the wild times we are in today. Don't worry if you can't draw or can't sing, like me. Creativity is so much more than what it is often thought to be. Create whatever the heck you want. Thank you to my brother for the quick interview. He got paid in ice cream. Another question could actually be if zodiac signs also did their part in this. The most creative signs are apparently Aquarius, Pisces, and Geminis, but proving that is probably going to take more than just one podcast, so bye!
Creativity is the spark that ignites when two or more different ideas collide.